The late afternoon sun slanted through the windows of the small frontier diner on the edge of Dry Hollow, casting long golden rays across the worn wooden floor. Dust swirled lazily in the air, illuminated by the fading light. The place smelled of fresh cornbread and strong coffee, with the faintest hint of pine smoke from the kitchen stove. Marshal Eli Garrett sat at his usual table by the window, a quiet presence in a town where silence often said more than words. He wasn't a man who talked much, didn't need to. His eyes did most of the talking. And today, those sharp, observant eyes were fixed on Maggie Harper. Maggie moved slowly behind the counter, ladling stew into bowls for the late lunch crowd. There was something different about her. Her hair, usually pinned neat as a pin, hung messily around her face. Her step lacked its usual steadiness. When she turned to greet him with a faint smile, Eli noticed the dark shadow beneath her cheekbone, a faint purple mark trying to hide beneath a layer of powder. A bruise. Fresh. She caught him looking and quickly turned away, wiping her hands on her apron as if scrubbing away the suspicion. Eli didn't say a word, just watched. A few minutes later, Clara emerged from the back room with a small basket of warm cornbread. The little girl had always been full of sunshine, talking the ears off anyone who'd listen. But today she was quiet, her eyes fixed on the floor. She walked gingerly, as though every step ached. When she set the basket down on the counter, Eli's gaze dropped to her wrist. Just under the cuff of her sleeve, a dark, finger-shaped bruise clung to her skin like a cruel signature. Eli's heart sank, and then began to burn. He pushed his coffee aside and rose slowly, his boots echoing on the plank floor. The murmur of conversation in the diner fell into a hush. Maggie glanced up as he approached, her face going pale. "Maggie," he said gently, "can I talk to you out back?" She hesitated. Her hand trembled as she reached for her apron string, glancing through the diner window toward the saloon across the street. Her lips pressed together as if to hold back everything she was too scared to say. Then, after a pause that felt like an eternity, she gave a single, shaky nod. They stepped out into the back lot, the scent of pine and wood smoke thick in the air. A chill rode the breeze, though the sun hadn't quite dipped below the horizon. Maggie stood by the woodshed, arms crossed over her chest, eyes downcast. Eli didn't press. He waited. Finally, she spoke, barely a whisper. "It was Tom. He's back." Eli's jaw tightened. "Said he'd changed. Said he missed Clara. I believed him for about 5 minutes. But then he started drinking again. Got mean. Last night, he hit me." Her voice cracked. Clara tried to stop him. He knocked her into the table. Eli clenched his fists. Tom Benton, Maggie's no-good husband who'd vanished years ago after a string of brawls and thefts, wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Dry Hollow. He'd made promises before, broken every one. "You and Clara aren't spending another night under that roof," Eli said, his voice low but steady, as if the decision was already made. "This ends tonight. You understand me?" Maggie's eyes brimmed with tears, but she nodded. For the first time in a long while, there was something in her face that looked like hope. Eli touched the brim of his hat and turned back toward the diner. The sun dipped low behind the hills, casting long shadows over the town of Dry Hollow. Evening had fallen, and with it came a quiet tension, like the stillness before a storm. Lamps flickered to life in the windows of shops and homes. Folks lingered on porches or at windows, watching. They'd heard whispers, about Bruises, about a lawman's visit to the back of the diner, and about a man who had no right to come back. Across the street from the diner, the saloon buzzed with the usual mix of rough laughter and clinking glasses. Inside, Tom Benton was holding court, drunk and swaggering. His eyes were glassy, his voice too loud. He leaned back in his chair with his boots on the poker table, laughing as he told a story that twisted the truth beyond recognition. "Yeah," Maggie thought she could mouth off. Had to remind her who's in charge, he barked, slamming his glass on the table as a few uneasy chuckles rippled around him. "A man's home is his kingdom, ain't it?" The other men at the table gave forced smiles, no one willing to challenge him, but none enjoying the moment either. There was something off about the air tonight, a crackle of something brewing. Everyone could feel it. Then the saloon doors creaked open, slow and sure. Eli Garrett stepped inside, calm as a cold river. His coat moved slightly with the breeze behind him. Dust clung to his boots, and his star glinted beneath his collar. He wasn't in a hurry. He never was. That was part of what made him dangerous. The room fell silent. Tom Benton slowly turned his head, eyes narrowing as he caught sight of the marshal. He smirked and leaned forward, hands on the table, posture full of false bravado. "Well, look who it is," Tom slurred. "The quiet little tin star come to have a drink." Eli didn't answer. He stepped forward, stopping a few feet from the table. His voice was calm, flat, and carried like distant thunder. "You don't belong here, Tom." Tom stood slowly, puffing his chest out. "Ain't your place to say where I do or don't belong. That's my wife and my daughter you're talking about." Eli's eyes never wavered. "Not anymore. You laid hands on them. That's not a man, Tom. That's a coward, and I don't allow cowards to walk free in my town." Tom's smile faded. He stepped closer, fists clenched. "You gonna stop me? You drawing on me in front of all these folks?" Eli didn't move for his gun. Instead, he took another step, closing the space between them. His voice dropped to a razor's edge. "You touch that woman or that girl again, and you won't be walking out. This is your last warning." Tom lunged, reaching for something, maybe a bottle, maybe his knife, but he didn't get far. Eli struck fast, grabbing Tom by the front of his shirt and slamming him hard against the bar. The room gasped as glasses shattered and Tom groaned, stunned. Before he could recover, Eli had him in cuffs, twisting his arm behind his back. "Tom Benton," Eli said loud enough for the entire room to hear, "you're under arrest for assault, child endangerment, and violation of parole." You won't see the outside of a cell for a long time. No one moved to help Tom. Not a single man, not even the barkeep. As Eli dragged him outside, a few folks stepped out of their homes to watch. Some nodded, some stood with tears in their eyes. Because they knew, this wasn't just about a bad man getting what he deserved. This was about something deeper. A town finally standing on the right side of silence. That same night, Miss Delia from the schoolhouse opened her doors to Maggie and Clara, and half the town came by with blankets, food, and quiet comfort. The women helped Maggie clean out her house the next morning, made sure every trace of Tom was gone. No one called it a miracle. No one needed to. But from that night on, folks in Dry Hollow would always remember what happened when Marshal Eli Garrett noticed bruises on a cook and her daughter.